Hi, everyone. I'm Jen from Joy Journeying with Jen. And if you've been with me for a little while, we're continuing our 2-year celebration of Fierce Awakenings, which was published in September of 2023. And alongside my co-author, Sarah Hoskin, we are using Substack to create a new connection to our book. And it's amazing what a book does, right? Even though you may have read a book before, or it's sitting on your shelf and you finally read it for the first time, there's always magic in finding the gems that are like lighting you up. So over at the Sacred Beyond, Sarah is doing a series called The Wisdom of the Well, and she's re-interviewing some of our co-authors. And one of the interviews that she's doing is with our co-author, Susan Smith. And Susan, that's the chapter we're on today. And I'll link below the interview she's doing with Sarah. And I'll also link the original interview I did with the co-authors back in 2023, looking at, it's a going back reflection of where they were when they wrote this chapter in 2023. And Sarah's asking the question, like, what has happened in the meantime? What's happened in the last 2 years, and how are you still connecting to this idea of the spiral path with courage and confidence? And that's the subtitle of our book is Calling, Encouraging Confidence to Walk Life's Spiral Path. And Susan brings a lot of this kind of full circle back around to some of our early chapters. For me, as the lead author and developmental editor, and the one who organized the story order of the book, there's a story, and you can go back to listen to what I said about Shauna Burkhart's book, Shauna Burkholder's chapter back in chapter 2. And she was talking about this impulse to go out into the world and leave behind burnout and this promise of a life that she was chasing that was leaving her exhausted and not even enough time for her to grieve for the loss of her grandmother. So Susan has moved that like spark of, oh, is this the American dream that I'm chasing, to this bigger conversation that of the discovery that the American dream and all this promise of that it holds is a myth. It's a myth that we allow ourselves to subscribe to. And it's a myth that, for many, many people may not work out in the end. And Susan, being a single mom and a single grandmother raising a young child, raising her granddaughter, couldn't really find a way to make the American dream real for herself. So she took her life abroad and she moved to the United Arab Emirates she was there for about almost 2 decades. She has since retired and returned back to the United States, but she created this incredible life for herself as a documentary filmmaker, and a life that took her to all sorts of interesting places where she did documentary films. And she was a professor of visual anthropology over in the Emirates, and helped her students understand the value of anthropology and how that can be tracked visually in documentary films. And she's very sensitive with her experience as a global traveler and a documentary filmmaker. She's very in tune culturally with how different values are expressed in different places and in different ways. And Susan is a big inspiration for me. She's now in her 70s, and the things that she embarked on at different stages of her life fill me with such enthusiasm, knowing that, yes, I'm getting older too, but I can still contribute. I can still show up. I can still help other women rise. And that's the excerpt that I'm going to read to you today, from her chapter, Searching for the American Dream. And the setup for this story is that Susan has had a very dear friend named Nancy, who was from Kenya. Nancy's passed away since, but there was a time when Nancy and Susan did a documentary about Nancy's life, and Nancy and Susan became very good friends, and they visited each other often and frequently. And there was Nancy had, spoken up. She was supposed to be married as a young girl to a man she didn't want to be married to. And she stood up to her parents and said, no, I want to be educated. I want to learn more and I want to go to school and I will not marry this man. And it was a very big deal. It was a very big deal for her to do that. And Susan, who grew up in Oklahoma and watched her brothers have more access to things, and she wasn't provided that same access as a woman, had to work really hard. Susan went back to school, got her degree, moved her life abroad, really is a self-made woman. And she's been incredibly successful in that. And it's inspiring in her story. And she's writing more about those experiences. And hopefully it will be a book soon. She'll share more of that in depth. But the thing that strikes me now is it's the way she's showing up for other women. She has taken all of her experiences and she, inspired by her friend Nancy, started the Speak Trauma Foundation. And this is a foundation that gives agency to many women who want to speak up and don't know how to speak up. So the foundation gives Susan a sense of purpose while living abroad and provides a spiritual connection to others while also inspiring other women to stand. And what I love about this is, as we were talking about with April's story, this connection back to the masculine side of us, and then this higher level of commitment that we make as women to show up in the world, not only for ourselves, but for others. And then how that raises a frequency so high that it becomes like this brilliant light. I see this like brilliant light when I talk to Susan and when I hear Susan talk about the importance of her documentary films and and the Speak Trauma Foundation that she created. Okay, and she talks about some of this in the context of the Me Too movement and the way that women have been cultivated to be pleasant and agreeable, and how for many young girls worldwide, their only weapon is obedience, and how that's something that Nancy turned her back on. So from Susan's chapter, Searching for the American Dream, in Susan's words, sometimes I wonder if my situation would have been different if I had, like Nancy, spoken up and told my parents that I deserve and want an education, that I want to live to my fullest potential. With that possibility now long gone, Speak Trauma Foundation is a bridge to allowing others to live their full potential. It empowers women to speak up and to share their experiences by providing agency and creating a storytelling platform for women. In many ways, the organization offers women the healing and the validation to feel less alone as they scan their horizons for limitless possibilities. Speak Trauma teaches documentary skills to the participants and offers a safe place for them to share their stories without shame and judgment. For instance, we've held space for the Mijikenda women in Mombasa who lost their loved ones to recruitment by Al-Shabaab, a terrorist organization, and the Zanzibari youths who strive to improve their filmmaking skills so they too can capture the rich stories of their fellow Zanzibaris. Then she goes on a little bit and then is talking about the many injustices that women endure. And how she's stepping out of like her life in the UAE, in the Emirates, and now she's returning back to the United States. And she's coming to this other recognition, right? So as she has created the Speak Trauma Foundation, she's also understanding the role that older women play in the world. And I'll leave you with these couple drops of where she's going. Susan says, growing old and being a single female in America is something to reckon with. When I left America nearly 20 years ago, I understood the American dream was a myth. I also knew I didn't belong, and looking for that place to call home sent me on a journey living abroad. It's time for a new American dream. Envisioning my future with Speak Trauma Foundation in my documentary filmmaking, I'm drawn to providing agency through storytelling for older adults. I want to raise awareness about income inequality and confront the system that's created millions of vulnerable people in America. And this is it. She says it here. I achieved a version of the American dream while living abroad that now gives me enough economic independence to live the life I chose. And I'm choosing to return as a more empowered version of myself. And I think where Susan's stories, Susan's experiences and story intersects with mine is that I'm also I'm a bit of a nomad, and I do feel myself, and I have traveled and I have walked long stretches of the earth. I walked 3.5 years from Bangkok to Barcelona, and I've traveled to more than 50 countries. And I now also live abroad. I live in Catalonia outside of Barcelona for almost 20 years now. It's 20 years this year. And this feeling of the American dream that is so powerful in my younger years of chasing those gold stars and getting a career and making the most of my life. And the feeling that I have found the most beautiful things in my life by being in lots of different places and not just one place. And this multi-dimensional feeling also that you are home wherever you're home, and there are ways that your ripple is going to be felt, either because you've created something that helps send that ripple out, or because of other people that have come into your life and shared their life with you. So in Susan's case with Nancy, and then through Susan, I feel connected to Nancy. And then through Susan, I also feel like giving agency to women and helping women find their storytelling truth and finding ways to express that and diminishing the inequality that exists still in the world. And it has me wondering, it just has me wondering what I am most meant to help with now at this phase of life. It has me reading Susan's words right now, even has me wondering what versions of a myth did I create and that I could let go of because something else has become more true or more real now. So that's the question I'm going to leave you with, is where are you holding the myth of something that you felt was so important at one point in your life, as you're kind of helping yourself rise higher or helping other women rise higher? What is the myth you're telling yourself or that you're still chasing? And what pieces of that have either come true, that you have lived the myth, or where you can say, yeah, that's just, the myth, and I am going to live a different version of my life now. And what are you going to choose? How are you going to choose it? All right, we're getting to a close with Fierce Awakenings chapters. We have 2 more coming up, and I'll tell you about Ellison's story in the next video. Take good care and I'll see you soon.